It happens late at night or early in the morning, when you realize you've started doubting yourself in ways you never did before. You still know who you are. You've lived a full life. But lately, something feels off when you're around women. You notice the pause before you speak. You feel the urge to explain yourself. You wonder why conversations don't land the way they used to. That creates a specific kind of embarrassment. Not loud, not dramatic. Just heavy enough to make you question your presence. Let me be clear with you. This is not because you've aged out. This is not because you're lacking anything essential. What you're experiencing is a shift, a subtle internal change that most men never recognize, and therefore never correct. The confusion grows because no one names it. But once it's named, everything that felt personal starts to make sense. You may have started to believe the problem is external. Age, competition, a culture that praises youth and speed. That belief slowly changes how you show up. You become cautious instead of grounded. You seek signals instead of trusting your presence. Let me be direct. This is not a character flaw. This is conditioning. Most men over 60 are taught subtly. That attraction must be earned again. That experience somehow loses weight over time. Here's why this matters. When you believe you must earn interest, your nervous system shifts before you say a single word. Confidence is a safety signal, not willpower. Your body reads the room first. It checks for threat. It checks for approval. And when it senses uncertainty, it opens the wrong valve. Think of it like traffic at an intersection. When lights are unclear, movement slows. When signals conflict, nothing flows smoothly. This is not a failure. This is a signal. What this means for you. Your internal state shapes every interaction. Many men mistake attraction for performance. They try to be interesting. They try to be impressive. But effort aimed outward creates pressure inward. And pressure leaks through tone, posture, timing. Think about your last conversation. Not the words. The energy underneath them. Were you waiting for a response? A reaction? A sign you were doing it right? I want you to hear this. That waiting is felt immediately. Even if nothing is said out loud. Confidence is a safety signal, not willpower. Women do not respond to age. They respond to regulation. A regulated presence tells the nervous system, this person is steady. This person is not asking to be carried. Younger men often cannot provide that. They are fast, but not settled. Engaging, but internally loud. You bring something different, but only if you stop competing on the wrong field. There is no black and white. Context matters. When you chase validation, you hand over control of your internal state. When you compare yourself to younger men, you abandon your strongest asset. When you perform instead of being present, you disconnect from your body. Each of these creates the same result, a closed gate. Think of attraction like plumbing. Flow depends on pressure balance, not force. The moment you stop pushing, flow quietly returns. What this means for you. Relaxation is not passivity, it's This shift is uncomfortable at first, because it asks you to stop reaching. But that discomfort is temporary. And it is the doorway most men never walk through. Type 1 if this feels familiar. Attraction doesn't start with words. It starts milliseconds earlier. Before logic, before evaluation, before choice. Here's why this matters. Your nervous system broadcasts your internal state. Long before you say hello, let me be direct. When you feel settled, your body sends a safe signal. When you feel uncertain, it sends noise. Think of it like a signal wire. A clean signal carries clearly. A frayed wire creates interference. This is not about charm. It's about regulation. What this means for you. Your internal calm communicates before your personality does. Most men assume confidence is something you decide. In reality, it's something your body confirms. When you're scanning for approval, your breathing shortens. Your shoulders subtly rise. Your timing speeds up. None of this is intentional. It's automatic. I want you to hear this. People don't respond to your thoughts. They respond to your state. Confidence is a safety signal, not willpower. Think about traffic again. When lights are synchronized, movement feels smooth. When signals conflict, everyone hesitates. That hesitation is felt across the room. A small micro-story here. You've likely noticed moments when someone said very little, yet everyone leaned in. They weren't impressive. They were coherent. What this means for you: presence outweighs performance every time. Biology explains this simply. A regulated nervous system lowers threat perception. Lower threat allows openness. This happens beneath awareness. No one decides it. The body does. There is no black and white. Context matters. Age changes the equation in your favor here. You've lived through uncertainty. You've solved real problems. Your system knows how to settle. But when you override that by trying, you close the gate you already opened. Think of attraction like a valve. When pressure is equal, flow continues. When pressure spikes, the valve tightens. Trying harder spikes pressure. This is not a failure. This is a signal. Another microstory. A man walks into a cafe, orders slowly, and waits without checking his phone. Nothing dramatic happens. Yet the room feels quieter around him. That's regulation. What this means for you: stillness creates gravity without effort. The goal is not indifference to people. It's independence from outcomes. When you're no longer trying to get somewhere, your body stops rushing ahead of you. And that's when your presence becomes noticeable. Not because it's loud, but because it's clear. Your body isn't broken. Your strategy is. Most men never hear that sentence. They assume something inside them failed quietly over time, when in reality, the system is still intact. Let me be direct. What changed wasn't your worth. What changed was how you relate to outcomes. Here's why this matters. Your nervous system learned, slowly, to associate interaction with risk. Not danger. Risk. Think of it like a valve. When pressure builds, the valve tightens. When pressure eases, flow resumes. Outcome dependence is pressure. When you approach any interaction needing a result, approval, interest, reassurance, your body prepares for loss. That preparation shows up as tension, and tension blocks flow. What this means for you: reducing pressure restores natural presence. This is where outcome independence enters, not as a mindset trick, but as a physiological reset. Outcome independence does not mean withdrawal. It means you remain steady regardless of direction. Think of traffic again. When every driver rushes to force movement, everything stalls. When one lane slows intentionally, flow improves. You become that lane. Let me slow this down. Outcome independence tells your nervous system, there is nothing to chase. There is nothing to defend. That signal alone changes posture, breathing, timing. Confidence is a safety signal, not willpower. What this means for you: your calm gives others permission to relax. The question then becomes practical. How do you build this state without forcing it? This is where the daily protocol matters. Not because it's magical, but because repetition rewires response. The protocol is simple by design. Simple enough to repeat. Short enough to maintain. 12 minutes. Not to attract anyone, but to recalibrate yourself. Here's how the system works. First, contentment rehearsal. 3 minutes. You sit quietly, eyes closed. No performance. You recall moments of satisfaction that had nothing to do with approval. A solved problem. A completed task. A calm morning. This tells the nervous system, I am already resourced. Think of it like grounding a wire. Excess charge dissipates. Signal stabilizes. This is not visualization for success. It's orientation toward sufficiency. What this means for you: feeling complete lowers unconscious urgency. Second, agenda-free interaction imagery. For minutes, you imagine a conversation with no destination, no outcome, no next step, just presence. You notice pacing, breathing, listening. You do not imagine being liked. You imagine being there. This retrains the brain's prediction loop. It learns that interaction does not require extraction. Think of a gate. When no one pushes, it stays open. There is no black and white. Context matters. What this means for you: presence without agenda feels safer to everyone involved. Third, self-worth reinforcement. 5 minutes. This is not ego inflation. It's integration. You acknowledge experiences that shaped you, responsibilities carried, people supported, decisions made, not to impress, to recognize continuity. Your nervous system responds to acknowledgement. It stabilizes identity. Think of plumbing. Leaks form where pressure is denied. Reinforcement seals the joints. What this means for you: owning your history studies your internal frame. This entire protocol does one thing. It removes urgency. Urgency is the invisible repellent. Most men believe attraction fades because of age. In reality, it fades when urgency enters. Urgency sounds like wanting, but it feels like need, and need triggers caution. This is not a moral issue. It's mechanical. This is not a failure. This is a signal. Let me offer a small micro-story. A man sits at a cafe. He orders. He waits. He doesn't scan the room. He doesn't perform stillness. He simply reads. Nothing happens for several minutes. Then conversation starts naturally. No technique was used. No effort applied. Only absence of pressure. What this means for you: stillness invites approach without demand. This is why younger men struggle here. Not because they lack value, but because they lack regulation. Speed without grounding creates noise. You do not need to compete with noise. You bring quiet. Quiet is not passive. It's authoritative. Now, let me be clear. Outcome independence does not mean disengagement from life. It means engagement without attachment. You still speak. You still show interest. You still connect. But you no longer hinge your state on response. That difference is felt immediately. Think of a signal wire again. Clean signal attracts reception. Distorted signal creates distance. What this means for you: clarity outperforms effort every time. This practice also extends beyond attraction. It improves sleep. It studies decision-making. It reduces rumination. Because the same valve controls multiple systems. When pressure drops, multiple pathways open. You are not trying to become someone else. You are removing interference. This matters because most men overcorrect. They try to add confidence, add charm, add strategy. But addition creates weight. Subtraction creates flow. Let me be direct again. You don't need more techniques. You need less urgency. Confidence is a safety signal, not willpower. What this means for you: ease communicates strength without explanation. Start small. Do not try to fix everything. Choose one element of the protocol tonight. Just one. Consistency matters more than intensity. This is how systems shift. Quietly, gradually, reliably. Choose one habit to start tonight. Comment the number. At this stage of life, the most damaging belief is not that attraction fades. It's the belief that you must compensate for age with effort. That belief keeps your system on alert. Alert looks like vigilance. Vigilance looks like trying. Let me be clear. Nothing about this work asks you to change who you are. It asks you to stop overriding what already works. There is no black and white. Context matters. Some days you will feel steady. Other days you will notice old habits surface. That does not mean you are regressing. This is not a personality issue. It's pattern recognition. Think of traffic again. One jam does not mean the road is broken. It means timing needs adjustment. What this means for you: progress shows up as fewer spikes, not constant calm. As a physician, I need to say this. If you notice persistent anxiety, sleep disruption, or a sudden change in mood or focus, that is worth discussing with a healthcare professional, not because something is wrong, but because support accelerates clarity. You are not behind. You are not invisible. You are recalibrating. And recalibration always feels unfamiliar, right before it starts to feel natural again. If this conversation helped you see yourself more clearly, make sure you subscribe to this channel. I speak to men over 50 who don't need motivation. They need understanding and practical explanations that respect their experience. Share this with one man over 50 who has grown quieter lately, not because he lacks confidence, but because no one explained what actually changed. Here's why this matters. When men understand their internal signals, they stop blaming age and start adjusting strategy. In the next video, I'll walk you through the exact body language cues and presence shifts that make people notice you the moment you enter a room. not techniques. Signals. Small changes that communicate steadiness. Before you ever speak, watch for that next conversation. It builds directly on what you learned here.